again. Hello. In the interest of being genuine, this is early morning. It is, I don't know what time. I want to say like 5:45. And I wrote in my journal, because that's what I do. I write every day in my journal. And it's something that I have done for 30 years. It's the way that I do brain dumps. It's the way that I sort myself out. It's got me through a lot of things, and I plan to share on this channel how I have used it to radically change my life. And what I want to say about that is I've done it for my health, I've done it for my finances, for my family, my marriage, my living circumstances, my career paths, everything. And so this is ultimately a lesson a little bit about the walking still, because it's so representative of goals, no matter what the goal is. Because anytime you make a goal, I don't care what it is, there's a series of days or time that happens in between when you get the idea and when you see it in reality. And people talk about manifesting, and I get that, and there's so much great content out there about that. This just kind of is the, one other theme of mine is being okay. Like, you're going to be okay. Sometimes you just need to hear that. This is a nod to that feeling, because our ego self likes to come in and tell us all kinds of stories whenever we're in chaos, whenever something happens unexpected, you're tired, whatever. And so this is sort of, when that happens, how I approach it and how I've learned to approach it, because that was certainly not always the case. I remember, back when I started journaling in 1997, and I recently read all of these out loud from then until 2023. Talk about living your life out loud and reading it backwards and going on a psychological journey that you could not imagine. Yeah, I did that, and it took me almost 2 years to get them all transcribed. But I digress. This is about being okay, and I do want to share that. And I just noticed it is the 13th of January. And last year, when I committed to walking an album every single day, I remember this time of year going, oh my gosh, because there were days I didn't want to do it. What have I done? And there were so many days where I thought, this is stupid. I'm not going to make it. I don't want to do this. And so what I came up with, I'll just go ahead and share, was, wow, it's the 13th of January already, almost midway through the month. Last year, when I walked every single day, I remember noticing how fast day 30 came, and then day 50. And I thought, man, if we measured, and I'll put this in here. I did put it in here. Imagine if you counted days like that instead of month by month. Imagine if you counted, like, instead of saying it's January whatever, it's February whatever, you just went, it's day 50, it's day 51, it's day 52. That puts more urgency on things. And so that was one benefit that I just now realized of doing this walk, because it did sort of measure the year a little differently. I think I appreciated them more, and I noticed them more, or maybe how fast the year was going. Sometimes it felt slow, sometimes it felt fast. I do remember that there were days that walking was so easy, I did double albums. and it felt great and fantastic, and I was like jamming out, and I loved every minute of it, and I was in such a great mood. And there were days when I dreaded it and I did not want to do it at all. I was walking around my house at 11 p.m. I was walking around my pool at 11 p.m. I was walking on a treadmill in a hotel and was like, ugh, I don't want to do this. There's a million other things. Or I had people around that I would rather hang out with than go on a walk. And sometimes people went with me. But the key was that I committed. I did it anyway. You absolutely can. You just don't know it yet. So part of the process of just living out daily, the days, is that you don't know what you're capable of. But when you do it day after day after day after day, it becomes a habit. But more than a habit, it just becomes part of the way you do life, the way you show up. You're not thinking about it as much. It's just a fact of life. You're committed to yourself. So you can apply the same principle. I was telling myself this when I was writing. You can apply the same principle, the same urgency to your life around every goal you have. It is daily. It's very daily. What you're living right now happened in a series of days. So if you take your age now and you multiply it by 365, this is how many days you've already lived. Now if you take 90 times 365, I forget what that number is, but you do that, that's how many days till 90. Then you subtract how many days you've lived from how many days till 90, and that's how long you have left until you're 90 years old. And lived out in a series of days, you may have already lived more days than what you have left to 90, which is my case. And I'm very conscious of that. And I don't take those for granted. When people say every day is a gift, it's true. We just don't appreciate them because we're not in a place of, our circumstances might be different than someone who is really appreciating each day. But anyways, what you're living right now is a series of choices you've made day after day after day. It's not some big thing. So like, I remember being severely overweight and going, how am I going to get rid of all this weight now? I didn't want to wait. I didn't want it to be day after day. I wanted to be 90 days, 30 days. I did all of the challenges to try to do that. But it turns out it is every dang day. So it's more about who you become. And who you become is who you are now over a series of days. So really, the beauty in that is you just have to choose any day. So maybe on January 1st, you had the intention of doing some amazing feat. And now it's January 13th, and you've said, oh, I didn't do it, maybe next year. So what if it's January 13th? Start today. All you have to do is make one decision. I didn't walk 365 days straight in one day. I walked them every day for 365 days. So you only have to do one walk a day, not 365. So only do the one. Choose it again the next day, and the next day, and the next day. Just one at a time. And you can do just one. It doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, it can be absolute crap. Because the momentum stays. Even if it's ever so slightly, the momentum goes in the direction you want it to. Because the winds change in life. We all experience days that we feel phenomenal, on top of the world. We can kill it. Yesterday at the gym, I surprised myself. I was really doing so great, and I didn't really want to go. But once I got there, I just got in the door. That was a theory that I used. I started going to Planet Fitness maybe, it's 2026 now. At least 2017 or so. Maybe even before that. And I remember the first time I went, I was so scared. I felt so awkward and weird, like I don't necessarily know how to use everything here. I don't really know what I'm going to do, but I just made the commitment to walk in the door. I could turn around and walk out. I could get on the treadmill, turn it on, walk for 5 minutes and leave. That's what I told myself, but just get in the door. And now I call it the happiness factory, because every time I go in there has never been one single time where I was like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have worked out. But there have been countless times where I've said, I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I just went in the dang door, because that was the hardest part. So if you make the commitment just to walk in and walk out, just get in the door and go out every single day, or 3 days a week, or whatever your commitment level is, 2 days a week, once a week. Start where you are and then build from there. You could say, I'm just going to see from now to the end of January how many days I walk in and out of the door at Planet Fitness or whatever gym or whatever goal you have. How many times I just show up. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be good. It can be complete crap. See how many days you do it. Then the next month, and I love putting a sticker on my calendar for this, because it's a visual reminder. I don't have to think about it. Apps are distractions to me. Doing this electronically, that type of stuff, I've done all of the things, believe you me. I've had people, bosses, who have forced me into, and I'll do it for work, have forced me into doing like Outlook and Gmail and Teams, and I mean just all the different workflow things, and I do them. The problem with that is you don't just use your computer or just use your phone for that task. You are using it for everything. So you get distracted. When it's on paper, you're focused, because I don't use my physical calendar that I write on with a pen or put my stickers on to call anyone, or to take a picture, or to check Pinterest or Instagram or Facebook or all the things, or watch a YouTube video, or look up something on a map, or Google something. I don't do that. I just put my sticker on the calendar. I just write on it and I see what's going on. And I'm focused. So, because the momentum stays when you're doing that day by day, regardless, or whatever your time frame is that you're using, you don't quit. You don't quit on yourself, because you keep the momentum going, even if it's crappy momentum. It's better than zero momentum. So just choose whatever works. And then you show yourself you're committed, and pretty soon that registers in your mind that you're committed. You reach day 50, 75, 100, and you won't want to break the streak. There was a certain point in time, and I feel like it even happened earlier than this. I feel like once I reached day 50 or so, sorry, this is just hurting my arm, and I didn't want to have didn't want to get into perfectionism. I was practicing what I was preaching. I just thought, I'm shooting this video regardless. Sorry, it's all shaky, but I'm shooting it anyway and sharing the message anyway, even if it's not perfect, even if it's crappy. I'm going to share it because that's what I want to do. I want to be consistent. And if I can be consistent walking and working out, I can be consistent doing this. I just need to show up. And some days showing up looks like this. It looks like 5:45 in the morning. It looks like hair not done, makeup not done, dark out, not good lighting, not good setup. But see, what it'll teach me is I can get my setup ready the night before. And then I will be ready to shoot the video. And so that's the same thing I learned with fitness, right? I remember starting a goal where I would put my workout clothes out and my shoes out. Now I put them in my gym bag and put them by the door because I take them to my work, and then right after work I drive straight to the gym. So it's micro habits. I think it's James Clear that talks about micro habits, but that is literally it. It's actually the setup habit that gets you to there. And he's the one that talked about on a Marie Forleo video probably 15 years ago or 10 years ago, that you just put the shoes out, because more than the walking habit, it's getting ready to walk, being ready. So also, I learned in that process that I needed to get my playlist together before, because I didn't want to have that added step to cause me to pause before I left, which was figuring out what I was going to listen to. So over time, I knew the faster path to getting me to actually walk and not be frustrated was to pick the music in advance for the week. I would just, on Saturday or Sunday or whatever day I knew had a little bit of time, I would just gather songs or albums that started with M on a playlist, throw them all on there, and then all I did was pick one. Sometimes I picked one the night before, sometimes I picked one that day, but I was just picking from a small number of albums instead of me like having to search albums that started with M. I had already done that work. So you get what I'm saying. It's a lot of little tiny setup things, and I'm in the process of doing this for my whole life. Some people call this a 3D or 4D vision board, where you have your goals and you really set up your life to support those goals. This is not new either, not by any stretch. I'm sure it is ancient, really. You can probably find this in the Bible or other ancient texts. But I will say, I don't remember what this year was. Dr. Phil had a book about weight loss, of all things. I think that's what it was about. I don't even remember the name of it, but this is when he used to be on Oprah, before she called him Tell It Like It Is, Phil. And he had his own show after that. So his book, I remember him saying something to that effect, like he was talking about taking everything out of your kitchen that was a temptation, and it kind of let you know your level of commitment. Because if you want to fall back, if you want to have a escape hatch, you'll have one. Some people call it burning the boats. I think Tony Robbins quoted someone else about burning the boats. I don't know who he quoted, but where there's no way back. I'm not going that strong, but I am saying, like, you can set yourself up so that you have less of a chance to go back and more of a chance to go forward. And for me, I like the more of a chance to go forward aspect of this. I like to sort of pattern my day. I guess in Japan, and I forget who I heard this from, they have set up their subway system so that everyone, it is so efficient. I guess it's one of the most efficient. Maybe it's the airport. I don't know. It might be the airport that it's the most efficient one because they've literally put like arrows on the ground, arrows out the door, so that everyone just follows these arrows instinctively. And there's not, it's just efficient. Whereas if you're here in the United States in a lot of airports, people get off the plane and they're stand there with their luggage and they're looking around and then they're wondering where to go and they're trying to find the sign and trying to read the sign. And it's like I've been to Korea's airport in Seoul, and on the ground there's a path, and it has like a colored path for basically luggage, ground transport, whatever. You see it right on the ground. There's a big line, and you just follow that line. I feel like I might have seen this partially in Mexico. I'm not sure. But that's what I'm talking about. You can like literally set up your life so it's almost like that, where you're just instinctively following a path that almost drives you to follow that path. Just set it up so that you don't think about it, because that's the lag. When you're making these decisions day by day, when you're making a big story about, oh my gosh, I have to go to the gym, I don't feel like it. Don't ask yourself how you feel about it. Just go. Just go. I've never had one workout where I was like, man, I wish I wouldn't have worked out. But I've had a gazillion of them where I've said, I'm so glad I did. You'll be okay. One day at a time. One decision at a time. Even if it's a crappy one. You've got this. Because another good one is coming. Believe that. I hope this encouraged you.